This is episode 25 of the Women Inspired podcast. Welcome to the Women Inspired podcast. I'm your host, April Seifert. There is nothing more powerful than a woman who is inspired to action, and that's my number one goal, to inspire you, my listeners, to take action in your lives. Each week, I get to interview some of the most inspiring women, and I'm bringing those interviews to you. Let's do it. Hi, everybody. This week's guest is Dr. Beth Westie. Through her years of educational and professional experience, Dr. Westie has revolutionized the future of women's health. By using nutrition that matches the female cycle, Dr. Westie has helped hundreds of women better understand their bodies as well as reach health and weight loss related goals. Dr. Westie offers customized health and wellness programs that are customized to meet each woman's needs simply by listening to the individual's body and recognizing that each woman's body is different. Now, I'm really excited for you to hear her interview and get to know her because the content that she is delivering on social media and via her website, there's links to it in the show notes, in her show notes page, and in this episode set of notes. The content she's delivering is just phenomenal. And she's doing it in such an approachable way. So I really encourage you to follow her on social media and really get the most out of her content. So I'm really excited for you to hear her interview. Let's roll the tape. Well, hey guys, I am so excited to have an awesome guest with me today. You may have actually encountered her in Facebook land and other social media, but really great guest today. Excited to welcome Dr. Beth Westie. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you. Yay. I'm really excited about this.
I'm so pumped that you're here. I encountered you online. I've seen the content you're putting out. I've read through your mission and what you're trying to do for women, and super in line with a lot of the values that I have as well. So I'm really excited to dive into things. I already feel myself getting ahead of myself, which happens from time to time. So let me stop and just say, tell us a little bit about you. Help us get to know you a little bit.
Okay. So I actually grew up in Minnesota on a small goat farm and was an athlete in high school and in college. I played volleyball in college, got a scholarship. Then met my husband in college, started after college, went to graduate school, a chiropractic school, had my first two kids while I was in graduate school. Before I started graduate school, I went to massage therapy school. While I was getting my chiropractic degree, I also got certified in acupuncture and Eastern medicine. Had two kids, graduated, started a business, had a third kid, went on to grow that business, and then I sold it a couple of years ago to jump into writing and speaking full time to really promote women's health and women's nutrition.
You are crazy accomplished. Okay, so I'm thinking about my time in graduate school and how frantic and busy and crazy that is. And you had two kids.
Yeah.
How? Oh my God, you're a superwoman.
I had a fabulous nanny, and I took my time. I didn't have to I took another year versus I went part-time for a year. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's really crazy. So you mentioned, you're getting into, women's health and fitness and that type of thing. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing these days.
Yeah. So right now I have an online nutrition course and challenge groups that I run that really help women focus on nutrition that matches their hormones and to really deal with hormonal issues. So it focuses on just switching the foods that you're eating. So it's healthy, whole food based, but switching kind of what you're eating on a daily basis to match with what's going on internally in your body. And when women have stress or other hormone issues, it really can throw things off. So it's all about taking control of your day and your health by changing your nutrition to match that.
That's amazing. So I've actually never heard someone come at it from that perspective before. I am pretty focused on health and wellness. I follow a lot of people online who are in that space, but I haven't heard anybody talk about it from really a hormone perspective. Tell me a little bit more about that and why you got into that niche.
Yeah. It is a very different idea coming around it, but a lot of times as I talk, and I do a lot of talks at gyms or different colleges, other classrooms for sports teams, stuff like that. I do a lot of different talks and educating on this. When you think about it, it's like, oh, well, duh, that kind of makes sense. As the month goes on, my hormones kind of change week to week throughout the month. I could be doing things a little bit differently to support that and work with that. Like, of course, because women's bodies are different than men's bodies. I actually started with this with some issues that I was having after my third kid and tons of stress with starting a business and everything else. I started getting ovarian cysts.
Mm.
And I struggled and I did everything, right? Like all my friends are healthcare professionals. So I was doing all the things that you're supposed to do and I wasn't getting a result. I would be like on the floor in the last room in my office, not able to get up and not able to treat my own patients because I was in so much pain
Oh my gosh.
from like a cyst bursting. And I finally went in and they were like, yep, it's this. And I was like, duh.
You're like, right, fix it. Great, fix it.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Now what? And they were like, well, just go, if you go on the pill, then that'll fix it. I was like, I don't want to be on the pill. I've had 3 kids. We're done with our family. My husband's had a vasectomy. I don't need to be on the pill. That's not a solution. I want to know why it's happening and how to correct that issue. And they were not, it was not helpful, basically. The only piece of information they could give me was that it was a buildup of hormone, and I wasn't, so I was like, okay, so I'm not doing the right thing to balance the hormones. So I dove into my Eastern medicine training and started really focusing on just things that I could do for the cycle and for hormones. Came across cellular cleansing. That really made a huge difference for me. And then once I also combined that with switching my nutrition for my cycle, it was a game changer. And then I started implementing that with my patients and women that had cycle issues and other, fertility problems, PCOS, endometriosis, fibroids, extreme stress in their lives, all these things. It made a huge difference. And I thought, you know what? I'm helping women and I'm so excited about this, but I feel like I can help more and I want to do more. So that's where I was like, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to jump ship. I'm going to totally change career paths and I'm going to write a book and talk about it and do all those things.
That's so cool because, you know, all of us end up in situations at one point or another where we encounter adversity, a health issue, something, a career
Mm-hmm.
issue, whatever it is, family, blah, blah. We encounter an issue in our lives. And what I think is really cool about what you did is number one, you took charge of it and you said, I'm going to educate myself. I think there's an answer out there and I'm going to work really hard to go find it. I mean, obviously not completely casting aside your doctors, but still going
Mm-hmm.
out to educate yourself. But then two, you are doing something about it for other people who might be going through this same situation. And I think that's really neat when you can take action, but then also help other people take action as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when people go through your program, what's it like? I mean, what do they do with you and how are they experiencing these results?
Yeah. So it almost sounds really too easy to be something that's that effective, but it just focuses on switching what you're eating. And it's a very clean eating nutrition program. And I have the nutrition program just to make it an easy guideline to follow as women are getting used to eating for their hormones and cycle. But basically, when you break it down throughout the month, the first couple of weeks, your body's higher in progesterone. And the second couple of weeks, your body's higher. The first couple of weeks, your body's higher in estrogen. Second couple of weeks, your body's higher in progesterone. So for estrogen, you focus on cooling foods. Progesterone, you focus on warming foods. Estrogen is something that is very boosting for your body. It gives you more energy. It boosts your metabolism, boosts your digestive system, burns more carbs naturally. So we focus on some cooling foods to give estrogen a boost there. And then when your body flips over, though, and it's in the progesterone phase, it's burning more fat naturally, but it also slows down your digestive system, slows down your energy, a few things there. So we focus on adding more warming foods to really get progesterone to work a lot better. So you burn more fat naturally, but you're also working with that hormone to sort of regulate it week to week.
I've never heard that from anybody else. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking like, how is it that we don't get this information? I mean, I have my own
Yeah.
soapbox here that I would jump up on and shout from all day long about women's health and the lack of information in a number of different areas. Pregnancy to begin with.
Oh.
I mean,
Mhm.
50% of the, world's population is are women who are able to be pregnant, and it's this super common thing that's been happening for centuries and centuries and centuries and millennia, and there's still like a bazillion things about it, like, oh yeah, we don't know if you can do that when you're pregnant, we're just not sure. I'm like, oh my god. So this sounds like one of those things where, sorry, I get a little fired up about this because I
I
think,
love it.
oh my god, how do we not know these things?
Yes, exactly. Like, so when I started doing this for myself and then started incorporating it with my patients, I actually started diving into research. I am a research junkie.
Hell yeah,
I
girl. Me
love
too.
it. Oh, I love it. So I started diving into nutrition in the US and how it got to be this way because it's very different. I mean, obviously, you could go on and on about how unhealthy our country is nowadays, right?
Sure.
But I was like, how did it get this way? And why is it so different? Because a lot of what I studied, in terms of, Eastern medicine was, drew from other countries. So I studied nutrition in other countries and compared it to the nutrition in the US. And I found that the nutrition recommendations in the US are based off of really old information that they did some studies like early 1900s. They did studies on small groups of men. That information was compiled by men and put together for men. So, of course, when these women are trying to follow these same recommendations, it's not that it's not good info, it's just not the right info for them, which is why
Right.
when women go on any, like, this is, everybody can relate to this. You go on a diet with your husband, you're like, we're going to get healthy, honey, let's do this. And you follow the same thing, you're following it to a T. He's sort of doing it, right? Still having some pizza and beer, yet he loses 20 pounds and you lose only 2. And you're like, what the heck?
Right.
Why?
Yeah.
Because it's geared for him and his body and his metabolism, not women. So, yes.
And okay, so there's a number of different implications for that. Obviously, there are a lot of health implications, and our body weight and body composition contributes to a number of different chronic health conditions that are very, very serious. But one area too that this impacts that, again, God, I'm just like jumping up on all these soapboxes today. I don't know what my problem is, but I just like got on this podcast to like scream and yell today, apparently. But one of the other things that really drives me crazy is when women go through a program where they're really trying to make a change with their body and it either doesn't work or, it's really difficult in one way, or they're just not getting the results that they want to get, we beat ourselves up like crazy for it. There's this emotional hit that we take that it's like, it's me, it's because I'm not dedicated, I did something wrong, all of these things, this nasty self-talk happens. And it makes me so mad that happens. And it's not, I mean, essentially it's not your fault.
Right. No, exactly. I deal with that all the time with women. Most of the time, by the time I chat with somebody or they get started on a program, they've done everything else under the sun, right? This is not new. Women on average start anywhere between, 4 to 5 diets every year.
Oh.
And so the failure percentage rate is about 95%. If you're doing the math on all this, it's crazy. And why does that happen? Because what they're doing isn't working. And every gal does this. They go through something and they're like, oh, I screwed it up. I'm not getting the same result. It's me. But yet the problem is that you're at a different starting point. Like somebody else is starting at the actual start line and you're not even on the same field as them.
Right.
Like, you're in the parking lot or something, like you're not even in the same vicinity to start at the same place they're starting at, because you may have something underlying hormonally that you're not even close to getting there yet. So
right.
Sports analogy.
I love it. So I want to switch gears just a little bit and go to your I guess, personal career journey, because you've mentioned a couple of things that really parallel over into experiences that a lot of us have had, and I'm curious to dive into those. So, you talked about going through graduate school, you got your degree, you started this business, and you were working as a chiropractor. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, working as a chiropractor, and then you decided to make a change, and those big career changes and pivots are really difficult for people. Can you talk a little bit about what your mindset was like as you were trying to make the change to do something different? Because what I'm thinking about right now is that you had gone through all of this training, and granted, the thing you pivoted to wasn't completely not using that training at all, but it still can be really hard to make a shift
Yeah.
like that. Can you talk a little bit about how you made that decision and what that was like?
Yeah. So I love to read. I love to go to seminars. I love to absorb information. And as I was, building my office and doing really, really well, um, which is also not the case for a lot of female chiropractors. We're sort of the underdogs in that profession, and it's really tough to have a successful business. So I was actually one of the few that did really well, and I was used as an example to a lot of other clinics, and I did a lot of trainings for other people, and I just had this thing that as I started diving more and more into women's health, that's what was waking me up in the morning, and that's what I would think about and would be doing in every spare nook and cranny of my minute of my life,
Mm.
diving into women's health or talking about this. Over my lunch hours, if I wasn't doing patient notes, I would be, researching more on women's health and, talking about it more. And that fire got started, and it just grew and grew and grew. And then I finally had somebody say, like, well, why don't you write a book on this? And I was like, okay. So, right? Sure. How hard can
Sure, I
it
think
be?
I'm going to
Oh
write
my
a book
goodness.
today.
Right. Which of course is how I jump in. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. And I just like go, right. I will jump off the building without the parachute and not even think twice about it. I'll be like, I'll figure it out how to open it on the way down. It's
You
fine.
and I have that in
Um,
common.
so I started writing the book, and about, 3 months in, I was like, I think I've only gotten a couple pages done. This isn't going like I thought it was going to go. And well, duh. I mean, I didn't study writing at all in school. I took all math and science courses.
Hmm.
Duh, right? Like I should have figured that out. But I really felt this just internal pull to do it. So I was like, if I know how to do what I'm doing right now, and I can do it really, really well. If I ever want to go back to it, I can. But I'm just going to see where this other place takes me, because if I don't do it, I'm never going to know. And that thought just got to me more than anything. So I said, okay, I'm going to make the switch. I'm going to make the change. And when I started telling people, so making that decision, I want to say, wasn't that hard, just because it felt right. When I made the
Yeah.
decision for me, and like before I told anybody, I was like, that feels right, because I can do this. Like I know I trust myself enough to know I can figure it out.
Yeah.
But when I started telling people, that's where it got a little hairy.
Tell me about that. Yeah, I can totally see that.
Yeah. So what I had built and grown and spent, 7 years building and growing professionally, a lot of people spend their entire career trying to get to the level I was at.
Hmm.
And I was, in their eyes, I was giving it up and throwing it away and all those things. And so I had people, what are you doing? Why would you do that? That's crazy.
Mm.
How are you going to do this? How are you going to make money doing this? How is this going to be for your kids, for your family? Why? So it became very clear as to who was, in my support network and who was not.
Not so
You find
much.
out who your friends are, right? When big
Yeah.
life changes happen, you find out who your real friends are.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. So that was the thing. And I've had different experiences throughout my life where I've learned how to set boundaries and stick with boundaries. And that was another experience where I was like, well, if they don't understand, something's holding them back. It's more about them than about me and my life choice. Cause I mean, really, like, why do they care that much? So, um, you know, so I thought, you know what, if I want to go back to it, I can, and that's what I'm going to stick with, and I'm going to trust my gut and just do it.
There's
So
like 10 things in that I want to call out. So I'm just going to like hammer through the ones that come to mind immediately. But first of all, I've talked a number of times about with a number of different people who have been on the podcast about how powerful it is to have whatever activity you're taking on, whatever project, whatever job, whatever anything, have it align with something you feel insanely passionate about, that why behind why you're doing what it is you're going to go try to do. It's crazy how much more brave you can feel, or maybe you're just like, stupid and naive, but whatever. I mean, call it whatever you want. How brave you can feel when you really care about the reason underneath something that you're doing. And it sounds like that was really the case for you.
yes, very much so. Yeah. And looking back at everything, because I have people ask me still all the time, I do talks at the local chiropractic school, and I talk to groups of students because I now have a completely online business. I do get paid to speak and things like that too, but the majority of my revenue comes from online sales, which is a very different space from what I was trained in as a student.
Oh, totally.
And so, so I talk to students about that and tell them, hey, you guys are gaining a lot of knowledge. You could start something and start to make some residual passive revenue online as you go through and build your other business. I wish I would have done that. So that's what I lecture and talk about. And I have a lot of students ask me like, well, how do you feel not using your degree? And I was like, I still use my degree every day. I would have not ended up where I am had I not busted my ass through school. Oh, sorry. Can I say that?
You can say that. I'll flip you to explicit. It's not a big deal. But now you're explicit, so like let her rip for the rest of the episode.
Yeah, right? Let it fly. Dang it. But I wouldn't have ended up where I am now had I not gone through and gotten all that training and the experience and life experience. There's just no way I would have ended up doing what I'm doing. So I'm grateful I went through all that stuff.
Heck yeah. The other piece that you talked about was the people who were around you who were supportive. We'll ignore the people who weren't, but the people who around you who were supportive. You need cheerleaders like that once in a while who are just authentically and purely cheering for you, because there's enough situations that are going to be hard. You're going to slog through it in the beginning, especially, but throughout you're going to hit challenges. And it is so helpful to have those people around you who are just cheering for you like crazy. It's just makes the path so much easier.
Yeah. And one thing that I do want to say about that in terms of finding the right people, and people talk about having a tribe or support or network or all these other things. And I have found that through the things that I've been through, that can change a little bit or shift a little bit, but people can kind of come in and out as your support system, because sometimes it depends on what they're going on, what they have going on in their life. And,
absolutely,
I don't take it personally if they don't have the space in their life to support me and what I need them to help me through.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not that they're not a nice person, or they just may not have the capacity to do this. And maybe in a year or two, if I have something else going on and I lean on them or reach out to them, they may have the capacity at that point, and they would be a beautiful support person.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really compassionate way to think about that. The last piece that I want to call out from what you just said was, as you were making that decision, you said, well, if this doesn't work out, I can always go back and do, this other thing. Or people think about making these decisions as number one, being so permanent. Like, this is an absolute permanent thing and I'm stuck on this path. And I think that couldn't be further from the truth. We can always, always, always make a pivot and do something different. So sometimes people let, the fear of uncertainty, the fear of leaving something comfortable or known, leaving that behind, they can let that stop them from, acting, and stop them from, trying something or doing something new. And keeping in mind what you said, it isn't necessarily permanent. You don't have to worry that, you're not going to be able to get out of it if you decide that it's not for you.
Right. Yes. I think as we grow up and become adults, and live that responsible adult life, everybody thinks, oh my gosh, this is what I do and I'm going to do this forever. But why?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other piece of that too is, we let ourselves get really afraid, and um, we don't want to, branch out and try something new. And really all we can think about in those situations is, oh my gosh, what are the bad things that could happen to me? I'm not going to make any money if I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
doing a traditional chiropractic job, or I'm going to lose all these professional connections, or I don't know what was going through your mind at the time. But what we don't think about is, what are you going to miss out on if you don't try this new thing? I mean, I don't know what your
Yeah.
day-to-day life is right now, but I would imagine you have quite a bit of freedom and you would have missed out on that.
Oh, yes. That is the one amazing thing that I actually recently was chatting. This was last week. I was chatting with a friend and that I had made because of the work that I do now. And we were talking about things. I was like, you know what? When I was in my office, I did get a lot of joy from working with patients. That was my love. I love working with people and helping them to become healthy. My biggest value right there. But I got so busy in my office and it grew so much that I spent the majority of my time running and managing my office and people
Mhm.
versus, it was a smaller percentage of time actually treating patients. And then I felt tethered and tied. And once I tied to that office, it was a physical location. I couldn't travel. If I was going to take time off, it screwed up everything. And so it was really stressful. Once
Mhm.
I cut that tie and released that tether, I started making friends that I had never made before. I started having so much more fun, just having more time for me and to explore things that I was interested in, more time with my kids, of course. And people talk about that, like time with kids, and that's important in family. And I really want to be a part of my children's lives and helping them learn more because that's something I love. I love learning and I
Mhm.
love to help them learn. And then the other part of it was the freedom to now kind of not only tailor my day how I want it to be tailored, but to really take any avenue that I want to take in my career path and life path. I'm not tethered anymore to a specific path or
Yeah.
trail that I have to go down. It's anything I want to do. So that was my big things. I made it. I still make friends. I make friends all the time. Friends, and then it's so much more fun every day. It gets more and more fun, and then I get more and more freedom as time keeps going on. So
That's
that's the
so
thing. I feel
awesome.
so blessed now. Yeah,
Oh, yeah. And you would have missed out on it had you not
yeah,
taken that jump and made that pivot.
yes,
So, something else that I wanted to ask you about your job
mm,
now is, you're very visible online. So, for those listening to this, she's very, that's very easy to find. Google her name, she comes up, Facebook, YouTube, I mean,
mm-hmm.
everywhere. That comes with it. I mean, that brings with it, some other consequences. There's always going to
Mm-hmm.
be people who, um, have negative things to say, or maybe judge you in one way or the other. Do you get that, and how do you deal with it?
Yeah, well, of course. I get people who I want to say want to argue with me on things, you know? They'll be like, that's not right, or how could that be? Or people get even, I want to say, petty and they want to scrutinize my, physical appearance in some way, which everybody does, right?
Yeah.
And I, I mean, so that stuff does come across, but it's a very small kind of piece on my radar. And a couple of things that I've again gained just from life experience is I'm a big picture person, and I always take things into context of that 30,000-foot view. Is this going to
Mhm.
matter in a year from now? Is this going to matter in 5 years from now? No. So whatever. Like, it says more about them than it does about me. And then I also have developed so much more confidence in myself, who I am as a person, and the knowledge that I have and the belief that what I'm doing is really something that's going to impact women on such a big scale, that anybody else who doesn't understand that, they just, it's not that they're trying to be negative. I see it as they just don't know what they don't know.
Wow.
Yeah. Just I want to say different way of looking at it. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it would make it a lot, not easy, but I think it would make it sting a lot less to think about it that way, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I
So,
mean, and I know like everybody says positive things like, oh, well, just be positive, or, don't listen to the haters. And like, sure. But that doesn't, I have to go through, like I said, I'm into research. I'm into, analyzing things. So I look at things and then I compare it to something else. And then does it hold true for me? Yes or no? If no, then I don't even consider it a valuable piece of data.
oh, my heart just exploded. I love that so much. My day job is a data scientist. So
yeah. Yes,
somebody,
right?
somebody says
science.
they love data, and I'm like, me too.
That's the best. Let's sit there and analyze it and compare and contrast.
Exactly. That's totally what I'm doing right after this, actually. So a bunch of random questions for you. Yeah. Who inspires you?
Ooh, good question. I get a lot of inspiration from a lot of different places. I recently just started calling myself a creative person. And I find that I get inspiration from other people and their stories, and some of them are not even close to being related to what I do. Watching kids or going to do different things, sometimes being connected to nature, just, and I read a lot. I read a lot of books. Napoleon Hill, Wallace Wattles, and I read everything. So I want to say I get inspiration multiple times a day from multiple different sources.
Nice. What's your next goal?
Actually publish my book. It's gonna happen.
I love it so much. Is there anything that you would do if you weren't afraid, or do you feel like that's not a barrier for you?
Yeah, that's not really. I don't know. Well, I'm not. So things that I'm sort of working on for myself is that I'm not a really big. I don't like shopping, and I don't like getting my hair done or things like that. And so I've had friends who've tried to talk me into doing like fitness competitions and stuff. And I'm like, oh, I'll train for it. I'll train for it all day long, but there is no way I'm going to get up there in a little something, dental floss bikini and 6-inch heels. I mean, I'm 6'2". I do not need to wear enormous shoes on stage. And I don't know. The only thing about that is like, I don't like, I was like, I could do it and I would probably force myself to do something like that, but I don't know how that would, I can't see how it would move me forward and provide me with an experience that would be beneficial, I guess.
Sure.
Again, sure. Analyzing.
One more quick question. Thinking back about your whole experience. So whether it's your content area that you work on these days, whether it's the journey you've taken in your career, or something else, I don't know. If you could leave this audience with a piece of advice today, what would you say?
Yeah. I would say when women go through and they're starting a new venture, and I have started many new ventures, a lot of times women fall into a few different traps. One of them is, goal setting and comparing your goals and comparing your timeline to somebody else's. And it's really different. Every life journey is going to be different. So making sure you're setting the right goals for yourself and for what you really, really want, which can be uncovered as you go along. Sometimes it takes a little bit to actually figure out what you want in a life.
Totally.
So that's okay. So to change that goal to match with what you want, totally okay. And and then have the right timeline for you. Again, a lot of times gals will think, I should be getting this done right now or within 6 months, or I've been doing this for a year and I am only this far. Oh, come on. Well, okay, but what else do you have going on in your life?
Mm-hmm.
So again, more taking that big picture view. I think people kind of overestimate. I've heard this from somebody else too. They overestimate what they can do in a year, but underestimate what they can do in 10 years.
Oh, Tony Robbins.
Yes, that's who it is. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, totally. I agree.
Is so true. So true, especially for women, because women are busy doing a bazillion different things at once. So, yeah.
Totally. All right, last question. I ask everybody this. We have a Spotify Power playlist that is curated by all the women who have been on this awesome podcast. So I have to ask you for your favorite motivational song so we can add it to our playlist.
Yes. AC/DC, it's a long way to the top.
No one has ever added an AC/DC song.
What?
You're the first.
Oh my
You're the
God. AC/DC is the best.
That's great.
That was like my most proud parenting moment is when my son, who's going to be 11 next week, when he was like, I was like, all right, buddy, you get to pick the music today. What do you want to listen to right now? Like, as we're cleaning up and doing chores and stuff. He was like, I want to listen to some AC/DC. I was like, yes. Oh.
That surprised the crap out of me. I love it. Oh my God. Oh, that's so awesome. You have been just wonderful. I really appreciate you, coming on today and sharing your story and sharing, this information with us that, again, I don't hear anybody else talking about. So I think the work you're doing is really important, and it's really helping us learn more about, the way that women's health and women's wellness and our bodies are very unique, and we need to take that seriously, because I think we'd feel a lot better if we were doing things that were more specialized to our own bodies. Where can people find you online? I mean, like everywhere, but the easiest place.
Yeah. So I'm all over Facebook. And then I have a website, which is just www.drbethwestie.com. And I have a YouTube channel, so I have all my videos from Facebook. If people aren't on Facebook, they're all on YouTube as well. So they can get all the content, information, everything.
Yeah. Awesome. Good. Thank you again so much. Seriously, this was wonderful.
Yes, thank you so much. I love that you have a podcast about, inspiring women and focused on women. That is just so fantastic to have. So thank you for putting this together.
Absolutely. Well, I really hope you guys loved that interview with Dr. Beth Westie. It was one of those times when I met a particular person at exactly the right time for a number of reasons with Beth, but one of the biggest of which is some of the last things that she was talking about in her episode where, she was talking about giving yourself time and space to accomplish goals and not comparing yourself to other people and their timeline and how they're going about doing things. I'll totally admit it. I'm one of those people who gets really, really excited about projects, loves to keep busy and loves to do a whole lot. But what can happen with that is you can get really overloaded and you have to really cut yourself some slack sometimes and just say, you know what, this just is not going to happen on the timeline that I had originally thought. And it was just amazing to, hear what Beth had to say about that. In addition, another thing that I really love about her is that she is truly, truly, truly committed to helping women thrive and live their healthiest lives. You can see it in every single video she posts on Facebook. I said it in her intro. She's so approachable, and she's just a wonderful person and a wonderful resource for women. And one other thing that is very wonderful about her is that she gives things away for free, which is awesome. So if you head over to her website right now, drbethwestie.com, you can actually sign up to be on her email list, and she'll send you her free 7-day complete meal guide and grocery list. So this is awesome because if you are at all curious about the things that Beth talked about in her episode, it's a really easy way to just dip your toe in the water and see it for free and get to know some of the things that, the information that she's putting out there. And in fact, she has an entire section of her website that is devoted to freebies. So free, amazing content that she just gives away. She also mentioned in her episode her upcoming book, The Female Fat Solution. And she keeps saying on Facebook and on social media that it is so close to coming out. So I would highly, highly suggest that you go follow her on Facebook, follow her on social media, because she's going to be making a big, exciting announcement very soon. And I would love it if you were all the first to know about her book coming out. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in this week. Every single one of these episodes, I have to pinch myself sometimes because as this weird little side project, I get to meet the coolest people. Honestly, every single time I get off of an interview with a woman, I walk away and I, encounter my husband in our house and I just say, oh my God, I just met the greatest person. And he's like, you say that every single time. And I do, because they are, and it's so great. So I really hope you're getting a lot out of these episodes because I am learning so much from every single one of these women. It's just incredible. If you are enjoying these episodes, I would so appreciate it if you would head over to iTunes and leave me a rating or a review. And it would be wonderful if you could share this episode or any of the others with someone in your life who you think might benefit from it. I really appreciate you guys being with me this week, and I hope you rock it this week. Have an inspiring week.